on. So next we have a Dr. Brian Dozer. Brian Dozer is the president of Vital Link OC. They are an Orange County nonprofit dedicated to preparing students for their future careers through experiential learning opportunities in career and technical fields. He also served as adjunct faculty, teaching management, organizational behavior, and leadership courses at Webster University Irvine, where he previously was executive director. Dr. Dozer is the co-chair of the Irvine Chamber of Commerce Business and Workforce Development Committee and is on the board of directors of the Irvine Forward Foundation. Prior to transitioning into this educational sector, he also spent 20 years in advertising and marketing with various media organizations. He holds a doctorate of management degree from Webster University and earned an MBA from Pepperdine. Uh, Brian, thank you so much for being on here with us. I'm excited to hear your talk, and if you're so inclined, please take it away. Thank you, Brian.
I'm ready to go. Thank you very much. I'm not going to be probably quite as interactive as you were in terms of moving around as much, but I did enjoy that. So what I thought I would do is just share my screen, and I have just kind of a presentation. So my topic is the top 10 things you can do to level up coming out of COVID-19. And I think it's very important that everyone be considering, what changes are happening to the workforce, what changes are happening to our organizations right now, and how we can prepare for what certainly is going to be a pretty uncertain future. So the first thing I would like to point out is a lot of people have said to me, but I have a job. So, why should I care about this? Well, sure, you have a job, and what happens if you don't? I can't speak for everyone, but I've been through 3 situations in my life where I thought I had a job, and then one day I didn't. Whether it was because my business went under because of the last recession, I was at a startup, or because of a management change. And so I think it's always important that all of us remember that just because you have a job right now doesn't mean you should not be thinking about and preparing for the future. And there are a couple of reasons for this. We all need to be nimble. We all need to be constantly improving our skills because things like automation are a reality. Automation is likely to continue to accelerate, especially given what's happening with our businesses right now. Middle management jobs, from everything I'm reading, are going to continue to disappear. The types and importance of jobs is going to shift, and so is where they're going to be based. And I'm originally from a little town in Indiana called Evansville, and so I did a little bit of research, and I was thinking about, so if I was going to hire someone for a job, and I don't care where they are based, and all other things being equal, if I were to hire somebody here in Southern California for $50,000, based off of the cost of living, I could get that same person for $20,000 in a place like Evansville, Indiana. So where are jobs going to be based? If we are stuck in this process for the next 2 years, and everyone's working from home, someone out here could be at a bit of a competitive disadvantage because of their location. So we need to be considering these things. And then the last thing that I would say on this is, when is the right time to level up your skills? Always. Today, tomorrow, the next day, always be working to level up your skills. So what are my 10 things? The first one is know thyself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the things that you need to be working on? Probably just as importantly, how do others see you? And how does that compare to how you see yourself? One of the things that I find, and as Matthew said, I teach organizational behavior, leadership, and management at Webster, primarily with graduate students, but also with some undergraduate students. But one of the things we often talk about is the concept of self-awareness. And being aware of how others see you can be very, very important for planning your career, and also right now for planning your future. I was having this discussion with my wife as I was putting together my presentation, and she said, what you should talk about is ask people, are they reactive or proactive? Right now, what I'm seeing is that those who are proactive are the ones who are going to come out of this on the upside. Those who are reactive, who are sitting back and letting the situation happen to them, they are the ones who are going to perhaps struggle a little bit when we come out of the pandemic. One of the things I always have my students do is to take assessments. And I don't mean the silly ones on Facebook. I mean legitimate assessments, things like, personality, not quizzes, but personality assessments. So the Big Five personality assessment is one that is pretty rigorous and very recommended. I just had students last night in my class do one on what motivates me. I also, I do them on things like communication skills and many different areas. And so what I tell my students is, as you take these assessments, realize, what surprises you about it. If you are surprised about the results, and if there is something that surprises you, kind of dig in on that and try and really figure out what's going on. Because again, self-awareness can be very, very important right now. The last thing I would say on this is ask someone you know and trust. We all should have mentors and people that we work with, or bosses, coworkers, friends that we know and trust, spouses. Ask them, say, what, how do you see me? And that can really help us, kind of peer into our own selves and develop our self-awareness. The second thing that I talk about, and Kathleen from the community colleges will appreciate this because she and I have worked on this an awful lot, is this idea of employability skills. We also call this sometimes soft skills or higher ability skills. These are really, really important. This is probably the number, when I talk to employers, this is probably one of the top things I hear, is that the candidates that we're seeing do not have these types of higher ability skills, employability skills. In fact, literally just 30 minutes ago, I saw a quote that said only 42% of employers considered today's graduates proficient in professionalism and work ethic. And so that tells me that a lot of these soft skills are not being taught or trained going back to middle school through high school and college. And so when we talk about soft skills, employability skills, we're talking about things like critical thinking, decision-making, communication, business etiquette, problem solving, teamwork, all these types of things. And so how can you do that? Well, you know what? I'm going to be a little bit self-serving here. VitalLink has on our YouTube channel a 10-part series called Beyond the Interview that actually looks at these. The community colleges actually have an employability skills program. I worked with Kathleen, I think it was last year, presenting communication for this. She did a great job on it. And then Kathleen and I have collaborated on the Greater Irvine Chamber's Career Edge program, which is for college students. And so we're working on the plans for that next year, but that's a 3 to 4 part series that we host through the Chamber on these for anyone who's in college or university in Orange County. The other thing you can do, number 3 on my list, is certificates and credentials. Most people don't realize just how amazing the community colleges are that we have in Orange County. There are 9 of them. And so no matter where you are in Orange County, you are probably within 25 or 30 minutes of a community college. They are fantastic organizations. They offer great programs. You don't just have to go to community college to transfer to a UC or a Cal State or something else. You don't have to go just to get an associate's degree. You can check out their online classes. You can complete a certificate or a credentialing program, or you can just take a class. This is the 3rd summer in a row that my daughter, who will be a freshman in college next year, has enrolled in online classes through the California Community College. Right now, she's taking a Python programming class. She's never been in computer science. She wants to study physics. She realized, you know what, I probably need to work on my skills before I head off to college. And so she is enrolled in that. I saw the bill for it yesterday. It's about $100 for a class, which is really very, very reasonable. And so, the community colleges are a great option for this. There are some 4-year universities that have extension programs that have classes that you can take. And then there are also some private schools, colleges, and university programs that are out there for these as well. Number 4 is networking. Now is a great time to be networking. All those meetings you haven't been able to attend, all those people who haven't had time for you, they have time. I just had one of these this morning with someone. He and I caught up after, I don't know, 6 or 8 months, and spent about 35 minutes on a Zoom call together. I'm trying to figure out ways that we could help each other. One of the things also on this is, are you using LinkedIn? If not, shame on you. Get on LinkedIn now. It is perhaps for me and for VitalLink one of our most valuable resources. How solid is your profile on LinkedIn? You can actually, the LinkedIn actually does a really good job of directing you on things that might be missing from your profile. And so make sure that you are clicking through that list and saying, hey, I need to add this, or, oh, I did write a paper, or, I've got this link that I want to share. And the more active you are on LinkedIn, the more you're going to be seen and the greater your network will be. In terms of networking, if you have a job, you need to be networking. If you don't have a job, you really need to be networking. I see this with my students all the time. Students are employed, getting an MBA and thinking, all right, I'm fine, I'm good to go. No, what I say to them is, you need to be networking. You always need to be networking. And like I said, now is a great time to network. One of the things to always remember is people really want to help you. I love helping others, but you have to be judicious in your requests. One of the things that drives me crazy, because I get a lot of requests because of the type of work that I do and because of how much I'm out in the community, one of the things that drives me crazy is when someone sends me a request and then 2 seconds later, I get some sales pitch without them ever having had a discussion with me. So people do want to help you, but be judicious with their requests. And then also try and offer to help them back. Paying it forward is a critical aspect of networking and a critical aspect of LinkedIn. The next thing you can do is, you can, for some of this stuff, you can watch videos. The top 6 on LinkedIn Learning this week were 6 morning habits of high performers, time management, critical thinking. You can see a lot of these are soft skills. And so this kind of ties back to what I talked about a minute ago. One of the things that I find, I used to recommend to people, hey, check out this book or read this. What I found is that people are not reading business books or self-improvement books as much as they used to. And so a lot of this stuff is being driven to the web, whether it's LinkedIn Learning, YouTube, there are other avenues out there for it. But this is one of the things that I highly encourage anyone to do right now. They don't require as much time. One of the things I liked about LinkedIn Learning is that it actually tracks your progress through if you're looking at a series. I actually spent some time working on project management and learning a little bit more about project management because it was not something that I had spent a lot of time doing. So it can be very, very valuable for you. Number 6, so what's the number one reason people leave an organization? Bad boss, bad manager. And so one of the things I would say is work on becoming a better manager. As someone with a doctorate in management, as someone who sees a lot of managers and interacts with managers, I think most managers, and I would include this myself, could always be working on their management skills. So pursue some management training, talk with a mentor, talk to someone you consider a great manager, learn from them. There's some really important lessons that you can learn. My first management job, I was just kind of thrown out to sea and told, if you can get back to the ocean or get back to the shore, you're good to go. I really didn't have anyone to lean on, and I made a lot of mistakes early on. And so, I mentioned earlier that we are seeing some middle management jobs disappearing. And so a good manager is going to be even more valuable post-COVID. So work on that. I saw a quote, I think it was on Forbes earlier this week, the demand for top-tier managers will rebound once the pandemic subsides, because organizations will want to emphasize productivity. Productivity is really, from everything I'm hearing, is really taking a hit right now because, first of all, managers can't control as much as they could before in terms of productivity because people are working from home. And it's much more difficult to ensure that people are working on what we want them working on. And so we are going to need, to have a big focus on productivity going forward. And then the last thing I'd say on this is you cannot have a good workforce unless you have good managers. And so when, again, number 6 is become a better manager. Number 7, look into some productivity technology. Products like Zoom, Slack, Trello, the Google Suite, the Microsoft Teams Suite. These are all very important products, technology products that can help improve productivity. On March 20th, when we sent our staff home from VitalLink, I instituted Slack. We started using Zoom. We're using other products, and understanding those and how to use those can be very, very important. And we actually had this discussion last night on in my class about for those who have not been working for the last 12 weeks, are they going to be behind others who have been working 12 weeks with productivity technology? Is this a new skill set? And I actually think that being able to use productivity technology is a new skill set. And so what I would say is familiarize yourself with these, especially if you're not working right now. Used correctly, they can do a lot of things. They increase collaboration. I have been really amazed by what Slack has done for the collaboration for VitalLink. They can help with project management. We use Slack as a bit of a project management tool, and it has been really tremendous for things like updating our website or keeping us all on task as we're working on a virtual event that we're doing. They can overcome communication barriers. One of the things a lot of people hate about email is that you have to go back and find the email. Some of these technologies, they actually keep everything together so that you don't have to go searching for things. And it allows us to communicate in different ways. And then they also make the workplace conducive to remote work. And being able to work remotely is also becoming a skill. And so make sure that you are trying to make yourself the best remote worker that you can do. One caveat to this is don't forget to use proper etiquette on these. Remember that just because you're not talking to someone, Slack is still a business communication channel. And I actually had this, I saw this happen. Somebody got frustrated and started posting some things in Slack. And so I actually had to pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, just remember, this is the same as if you were on a conference call or if we were together in the workplace. So make sure you're using the proper etiquette as well. Presentation skills. Too many people do not have good presentation skills. I see this all the time. I've seen it from PhDs at academic conferences who literally turn around and face the screen and mumble. I've seen it, I see it in the classroom occasionally, and it is a continuing issue. Fear of presenting is real. Let's just put that out on the table. Some people are really afraid of presenting. Yet 70% of business people say that presentation skills are critical for their career success. And I would argue that in the world of Zoom, they're even more important. It is all of you out there right now have the ability to turn away from me, and hopefully I'm keeping you engaged, but you have the ability to turn away from me and check your email or look at your phone, so that there are many more distractions out there. So being able to present well and be engaging in presentation is even more important right now. So how do you improve? There are a number of ways. Go watch TED Talks. Watch how those people present. They are really, really good at it because they're given a very short time period and they have to fit in within whatever that is, like 19 minutes. The other thing I would say is join a group like Toastmasters. My wife and I were talking about this. She has her employees go join Toastmasters to learn to speak, and I have recommended the same thing to students as well. And lastly, I would say practice, 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 practice. The more you practice, the more you become comfortable presenting. When I did my dissertation defense, my dogs knew it by heart because I literally did that 90-minute presentation about 50 times to them, and because I knew that it was really critical. And so learning those presentation skills can be very, very important. Last thing on that is remember, the slides support the talk. I just had somebody do this last night. Literally every word that was on their presentation, they read. Number 9 is learn to code. So I told you my daughter's taking a Python programming class. She doesn't necessarily want to go into programming or coding, but it is an important skill. And one of the reasons is that not only does it look good on a resume, but it can boost your problem solving and logic skills. One of the things that she said is it's fun. She actually is really enjoying it. She's actually got me excited. I'm now going to next semester, I'm going to sign up for the same course. She's taking it at Coastline Community College. But having that base foundation is going to be very important for the future. We are going to move more and more and more into areas where, as employees, we need them to understand coding and programming. And then the 10th thing that I would put out there is data analytics. Everywhere I turn, I'm hearing data, 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 data. Data analytics is the science of analyzing raw data in order to make conclusions about that information. It is here to stay. If you want career longevity, go into this. 2 trillion gigabytes of new data are generated every day by our business. 2 trillion gigabytes. Someone has to make sense of all that data. That could be you. You can change the way we live, the way we interact, and the way our businesses operate. It is becoming a vital part of every single business out there. Even a small nonprofit like me with 12 employees, data is really important to us, and we are just starting to scratch the surface of it. Every business, unless you're selling hot dogs for cash out on the corner and not collecting any data, you need to be concerned. Your business needs to be concerned with data. And so what I would say is one of the things you could do is look into data analytics. And then I thought I'd throw in a bonus one, which I actually think matches up with some of what Matthew was talking about. Self-care is not selfish. I think right now it is so critical. It is for all of us to be forgiving of ourselves, to understand that we're going to make some mistakes as we try and navigate this new world. I also think it's really important that we take breaks, step away from the screen, step away from the computer, go for walks. What I tell my employees, the staff that works for us at VitalLink, is I don't care if you've been on 4 hours of Zoom calls and you need to take a 2-hour break to go for a walk or go to the store or just take a nap or something just to re-energize yourself, knock yourself out. As long as they are there for the important meetings, and I'm fine if they do the work later on. It is such a critical aspect right now for all of us to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. Self-care is not selfish. Make sure you're doing it. And that will help you get to the end of the pandemic. And that's my presentation. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. It's brian@vitalinkoc.org. If anyone is interested in attending some industry panels for biotech and medical devices with some high school and college students later this week, hit me up. I'll send you the registration link. We're doing that with one of the local community colleges. Just a little plug for what we're doing. And that's all I have.
Brian, that was super insightful. I honestly, I just learned a bunch of things. So thank you so much for putting that all together. I couldn't agree more about the self-care thing. It had to be reminded to me, honestly. I was trying to do it. I'm like, I just don't feel that I'm being effective today. And somebody said, well, there's this whole additional level of stress on top of the daily stress that we all deal with. And we forget about that. We brush it off, just like when we're a little sore or achy. We forget that we're going through something. So it's important to be reminded of our own humanity and to give ourselves that love, and we can be much more effective to the ones we surround as well by doing that. So thank you for that. We have a lot of questions here. So several at least. This one came from Arash. He says, what do you consider to be effective networking, and how do you network now that you can't meet in person at group events? Also, somebody else had asked a similar question, and they tilted it towards how, if you're introverted, do you feel to be a good form of networking? So maybe you can hit on both.
So what I would say is, there are so many Zoom meetings going on out in the world. And so I've gotten on some of those lists, and as they come in, I participate in them, and I then introduce myself to people that I meet on them. One of the other things that I have spent a lot of time doing is saying to people, hey, if you know someone that I should meet or that I should work with, will you please introduce me? And it can take a little bit to get that engine kind of going. But once you do and you build a little bit of a network, that it kind of becomes self-perpetuating a little bit. In terms of introverts, so I'm an extrovert, if you couldn't tell. But in terms of introverts, I don't think it has to be something that is necessarily difficult for you. You just have to find the way that the places to do it where you're comfortable. So maybe it's something where rather than participating in a large, a big event with a bunch of people, maybe it's something where you set up a one-on-one with someone, and you don't necessarily have to do it on Zoom. You can pick up the phone and talk to them. Again, I think the key, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert or just starting out, is, and I think this is really, really critical, is to realize that asking someone to help you is not a bad thing. Most people, and I've worked in Los Angeles, Indiana, Seattle, and St. Louis, and I will say this about Orange County: it is phenomenal how willing people out here are to help you, but you have to ask. And so, introvert, extrovert, new in your career, late in your career, you have to ask. If you don't ask, then you can't get started. And you will, I'll connect with anyone, as long as you're just not connecting me, with me just to sell me life insurance or real estate. If you legitimately want to connect with me and figure out ways that we can work together, I'm all for that. And most of the people that I work with at the chamber, that's another way. So attend chamber meetings, wherever you live. Those are great ways to network. But most of the people that I have met have been really fantastic about wanting to help out others.
Awesome. The next question comes from Andy, and he asks, how important do you feel is the pro version of LinkedIn, the paid version, versus just going with the free edition?
So I have the free edition. So I do not pay for it. So I don't think it's all that important. Perhaps, however, caveat, given my situation, the fact that I have a job and I have a pretty robust network already, I don't have to worry about some of the limitations that are there for the free version. Early in my career, and also when I was in more of a sales position, I did have the pro version. But now these days, I don't. I think it's just fine for me. But again, everything depends upon the situation.
I really liked your first point where you were talking about the changing workforce and how that's all evolving. And you did touch on a bunch of important points. Do you have any other thoughts or things for people who are still trying to figure out what to do? It's so intimidating when you don't know what work will even exist in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
To go back and get a full education for it and take on a lot of debt and all of these other things that are associated. And that could really debilitate a lot of people in choosing to make that next step forward. So what would be some more of your recommendations on how to decide and sort of how to position their mind?
Sure. So I think education is really going to be at an inflection point. Higher education, so anything post high school, because of what's happening right now. So I preface this by saying, again, I haven't discussion a lot, and it's one of the reasons that I'm with VitalLink. I do think that there is a bias towards 4-year in the media, parents, and then in some of the high schools. There's this drumbeat for 4-year, 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 4-year. That's the only path. That's not the only path. That is a path. It's not the right path for everyone. And so what people have to decide is, what are they interested in? And so one of the thing that VitalLink does that we are really trying to do with the community colleges and the ROPs and the K through 12s is to introduce students to what we call middle skills jobs in these 8 or 9 sectors that are important areas in Orange County, things like digital media arts to engineering to advanced manufacturing degree. These are jobs that pay well. Automotive technology is one that don't necessarily require a 4-year degree. And so, our motto is explore, discover, and connect. And so that's what I would say to people: do some exploring, right? And then try and discover what interests you, and then connect to people in there. And so, the industry panels that I'm talking about, we're doing on Friday. We're doing biotech and medical device, and we have somebody coming in from Gilead, which is the organization that did the drug remdesivir, and so they're going to talk to students about what it's going to take to get into that. So what I would say to anyone right now is, don't decide a path, and then to the exclusion of everything else. Do some exploration. In terms of what jobs are going to be, I mean, if we could answer that, we would probably all be billionaires. That's something that Kathleen and I have explored at the Chamber with that group for the last probably 3 or 4 years. And just when you think we know what's going to happen, something like the pandemic happens and it blows it all up. And so I don't think any of us really know what's going to happen coming out of this, but I can tell you that disruption it's big disruption, right? Business, education, across the board.
It is seriously big disruption.
Yes.
It's not
yes.
community disruption, it is planetary disruption.
Absolutely.
But that's also when the biggest changes and opportunities can come to be. And I think
Yep.
that's something that we can all forget about. Yes, there are lots of doors closing right now, but that means that new things are opening and beginning. And we need to be able to ground ourselves and have the mindset of being able to evolve into the next steps of where we're all headed as a society.
And I think that goes back to my point about being reactive or proactive versus reactive, right? This is, I said this to our staff, this is literally the greatest lemonade making opportunity in history, right? Or at least in our lifetime, right? We have been given more lemons than we know what to do with. And so, VitalLink traditionally has been all on ground programs, switching to completely virtual. The organization that we have today is light years from what it was on March 15th. And anyone who's worked with us can tell you that we are completely different. We have a completely different mindset. We have a completely different energy. We have a completely different focus. I'm actually working on a completely new strategic plan because everything that we had to tear it up and throw it out the door and start over again. And so you can look at that as an opportunity, or you can look at that as a challenge, or you can look at that as something to defeat. And I refuse to be defeated by it. And so does my organization. And so do most of the people that I know. And so we're going to make a lot of lemonade.
And the last question that we have is based around, you spoke to presentations. Obviously, this is something very much on my mind too. The whole reason I started the ProPresence brand was to help people facilitate better presentations and meetings, especially on a virtual thing, because a lot of people don't know how to do that. I've also talked to a lot of several VCs who have said they're not interested in taking video meetings with people because they don't feel they can create an authentic understanding of what that person is like through a video meeting, and that's just a lost opportunity. I think we're all transitioning very quickly here, and so some people are going to be not as quick to adapt to things like Zoom and Google Meet as others. But what are some of your thoughts on that presentational shift? Like, what do you think about when joining a video meeting and doing a digital presentation versus a live presentation?
So first of all, I think that it needs to be very tight and short and to the point, right? So we hear about Zoom fatigue. The presentations that we're doing on Friday, the panels, normally when we get people together for a panel, it'd be 90 minutes to 2 hours. Nope, 40 minutes, 10 minutes for Q&A for the students, and then 5 minutes for the community college to present their piece. Bam, done, on to the next. So I think you do have, you have to, if you keep it fast paced, and not lightning pace, not lightning speed, but fast paced enough and keep people's attention, then you can deliver, a better presentation. I do agree. I would love, I feel much better in person presenting. Because my natural inclination is to move around a lot, and so I find myself kind of sitting here. A lot of communication is body language, and so kind of I feel like I'm strapped to the chair, and so I'm with you. I would rather do it in person, but I think there's some things that we can do in terms of keeping it tight, keeping it moving along that can be important. One of the other things that I say, and I say this to my staff, is turn off your phone. I normally wear an Apple Watch. I take it off when I'm presenting or when I'm in an important meeting, because if I get a text, it buzzes and it bothers me, and it can break my train of thought. I turn off all the other monitors. I shut down my email. If you're going to be present, be present. And I think that is really just so important for a meeting. And if you're doing a one-on-one networking with someone, the last thing they want you to do to see you do is this, right? Because then what you're saying to that person is you don't matter as much as what's going on over here, right? Yes. And so when I was on the call today, turned off the phone, took off the watch. I have 2 monitors, so I shut the monitors down, and I was really just focused on that person, right? And it's very easy to get distracted, and when you do get distracted, then you lose the train of what's being discussed, and then you can't answer a question. And you're like, oh wait, what did you say? And then you just look inauthentic. And I think authenticity is something that we really need to be trying to maintain during these Zoom days.
All super insightful. So we have literally like 1 minute left. Tell me one thing that you have either most enjoyed or really learned, something that kind of became new information to you post-COVID. Looking back, what is something that you now see differently?
What do I see differently? I think we all had some deeply held beliefs about how businesses should be run, right? We have offices. We need people to get into the offices. We can't, I think for VitalLink, we always thought, well, we need everyone here in the office. And I'm in the office right now, by the way. I'm here 1 day a week, and no one's ever here, right? And so we have learned that we can do this and be creative and do good work and communicate and collaborate and do all the things that we need to do, despite the fact that we may be stuck in different places. And so I think what we've learned is that we, as an organization, can evolve much more quickly than we thought we could. Partially we've been forced to. But one of the things I'm going to come out of this wondering, and one of the things I'm actually wondering right now is, do I need a physical space? I'm a small nonprofit. Should I be spending that much of our donors' money on a physical space? Or should we perhaps really stick to a virtual, an at-home office for everyone? And then have a smaller space where people can come in if they need to collaborate, but not necessarily the 2,000 square feet or whatever it is that we have that's just sitting empty right now, and is a home for bugs, right? Because that's really all it is. It's a home for cockroaches, spiders, and roly-poly bugs.
Right. This has been super insightful. I have genuinely learned a lot. Thank you for your time and your knowledge.
Yeah, thanks for having
your
me.
authenticity. I appreciate you. This is VitalLink OC.
Yeah.